Dinner Conversations is brought to you by Child Fund, a community development organization that has been envisioning a world where every child is free to live at their fullest potential, no matter where they're from or what challenges they face since 1938.
Partner with us and our good friends at Child Fund to change the world and the life of a child by considering sponsoring a child today.
It really does take so little to make a difference.
Visit childfund.org/dinner conversations.
A child is waiting. Well, you're the one who came up with Julie Roberts. I had not heard of her because, I don't listen to music. But she was a huge artist for a moment.
Yeah, that's right. She did. She had a very substantial country recording career, gold records, and on some of the biggest stages. And then her life took a turn through a diagnosis with
MS.
Yeah, and she was only in her 20s. A couple of other things, her career floundering, the loss of her home and the Nashville flood. There's a lot to her story, and we're really just going to let her tell her story.
Yeah, it was wonderful. And there's one seat left at the table, and it's yours. Let's join the conversation.
We all just met today.
I just met you today, and I want to say what a treat. You are a breath of sunshine. You're not only pretty, but you glow. You got a spirit about you that's really nice. And
radiant.
And radiant. That's a good word.
And so do y'all.
Thanks.
It's nice to meet y'all.
Nice to meet you. And I love your husband, Matt, who I've known for years. And
he loves you.
Yeah, well, he should. I'm worth loving.
Yes,
and I should love him, right?
Yes.
Okay. So anyway, back to you. Let's tell for anyone who's meeting you for the first time, like I did today. Tell us your story that led you to this table. You had a big country career. Why don't we start there? Or if you want to go back further, you can go wherever you want to start.
Okay.
Like, did you always want to do music? Was that?
Wait. My question is the question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
See, he's always got these good questions. When I finally have a good one, he wants to interrupt with one that's better.
No, but
this is long.
That's
awesome.
I'm playing.
So I grew up, and we talked about this earlier today. I grew up loving country music that Mama listened to. And I grew up in a home of domestic violence. And so I have two sisters, and Mama would take us out of our home in the middle of the night, and we'd drive to Mama's house. And in a small town, it was like 10 minutes to Mama's. And at Mama's house, it was a happy home. And we would watch the Mandrell Sister Show.
Yeah. Barbara Mandrell, the sisters.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hee Haw.
Oh, yeah.
Carol Burnett.
Yeah.
And we'd laugh, and then Mama made everything fried. And so we ate good. It was just a happy place. Yeah. But Mama drove a Ford F-150 truck too. And so this was before seatbelt laws.
Right.
So we'd stand in the truck.
Me too.
And she turned the country music up, and we sang all the way there, and it was like our escape. And so we get to Mama's house, and Mama was the first person to teach us about faith. And after we would watch the shows and eat everything fried okra, fried squash, fried chicken.
Love Mama.
Mama's still in Lancaster.
Is she?
Yes. And she would pray with each of my sisters and me, each of us individually. And it would be the prayer you've all heard of, now lay me down to sleep. Mm-hmm. And it was my turn. And I said this same prayer for so many years. And it was now lay me down to sleep. And at the end I'd say, God, please give me a record deal.
Are you serious? It's a little girl.
It's a little girl. And make me a singer like Barbara Mandrell so I can buy Mama a happy home. And so I prayed that prayer from the time I was a little girl till those things began to come in my life. So that's how I began to love country music. Yeah. Was really Mama. And so I really wanted to be Barbara Mandrell. So I knew to be Barbara Mandrell, I had to move to Nashville.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But Mama said, you need to go to college. I said, I don't have to go to college to be Barbara Mandrell. She said, yeah, you do. Yeah. And I said, okay. So I went to the University of South Carolina for 2 years. Okay. And then I learned about an artist I love, Trisha Yearwood, and that she went to Belmont University. And they had a music business program. And so I signed up to get as many scholarships as I could. And the only scholarship I got, and I studied so hard at the University of South Carolina, but I got the Vince Gill Scholarship to come to Belmont. And so I finished at Belmont and in music business.
So music, I mean, was that, like when I think about you going to Mama's house, I mean, I wonder if one of the reasons you loved music so much was it was this kind of, not only was it an escape, but it kind of soundtracked hope.
It was, and it was fun.
Safe place.
Yeah.
Safe place.
It's a safe place. Mama would even sing to the radio. Really, I mean, we would sing so loud. And it was like everything else in our life was not there. It was music, and it was that radio, or
And
it
your
was
father
that TV.
was abusive. you
An
said.
abusive alcoholic. So yes, definitely that was my introduction, and why and it's also why I love sad country songs, because people always say, Julie, you smile all the time, and I do. I love to smile. I'm a happy person, but I love Patsy Cline, and I love Tammy Wynette, and I love to hear that cry in their voice when I hear them sing.
Yeah. Did you feel like that gave you an outlet for your tears?
It actually did. It was definitely my escape, you know, just sitting there pretending to be somebody else. You know, it was when I would pretend to be Barbara Mandrell, I wasn't Julie, the little girl that lived in this, you know, house. And so when I would step on stage, because Mama started signing me up for these talent things.
Oh, yeah?
And I was scared of everybody. Everybody. Like, they'd go take me to a restaurant, Ryan's. We'd always go to, y'all remember Ryan's?
Oh, yes, yeah. I do.
Yeah, if you go early, you get the lunch price, and you just stay till they bring dinner out.
So we'd go to Ryan's, and Mama would say, now don't speak to me. Don't speak to her, she'll cry. Because I was afraid of everybody. And I think it's because of my home as a child. And they'd speak to me, and we'd have to leave the restaurant. But when I would get on stage, it was like my comfort zone. And the first time I sang on stage was Rocky Top.
Yeah.
And I burped in the middle of the song because I ate Mama's fried squash.
Right beforehand?
Yes!
See?
Big lesson early in life.
Tell me about that first time. Were you nervous the first time? Or were you at home?
You know, they didn't think I'd walk out on stage. And I tapped my foot, which I still do. Always just kind of kept me comfortable.
Sure.
And I sing kind of behind the beat, you know. So
That's the way I'm like waiting for everything else to happen. Joining the party.
yes. But no, I think that's where I actually felt safe.
And you get a degree, and then after you get this degree, what happens?
So I was interning for Mercury Records.
Okay.
And when I graduated, and they said, Julie, do you want to be the receptionist? And I said, well, sure, because I had school loans. And then I knew when I graduated, I'd have to pay rent and a car payment. And so I became the receptionist at Mercury Records. And that's not what I prayed for.
No.
I said, God, I don't want to answer phones. I want to be Barbara Mandrell.
Right. I love how you were so specific. Lord, we're going to do this now.
Yes.
We're not going to have none of this answering phone stuff.
But I did it.
Right.
And I did it for 2.5 years.
Right.
And I had a lot of idle time when the phone's not ringing and you're not saying Mercury Records, this is Julie. I was just sitting there, and Mama was still back in South Carolina. And so I started making out a resume for her because I wanted her to move here with me. And I made up the cover letter. I pretended I was Mama. I said, I'm looking to relocate to Nashville. This is what I do. And I helped her get a job at a mattress factory in Nashville here. And she still works there.
Wow.
How?
And it was the first time in my life, so she moved 3 years after I did. It was the first time in my life that I had ever seen Mama really smile.
Really?
She started to wear makeup. She dyed her hair blonde. She became a new person.
How long? What was making her not be like that? Was she still married to your father?
Yeah. And
Okay, so she left him.
Yeah.
Finally, and got free and
Started her life over at 50. She put everything.
Let me ask you this. Let me interrupt right here. For anybody who might be watching who's in that kind of situation with little girls, when is it the right time to say, okay, I've been abused enough? When is the right time?
You know, I think it's so personal.
Yeah.
For Mama, I begged her my whole life, and I would, even when I lived at home and I was working, I would work in theme park shows, and during the summer, and when I'd get off of work, I'd go buy things like dishes that would be in our home one day, and I'd hide them from my dad.
Oh.
And so I told her back then, you know, when I was little, I said, Mommy, let's leave. But we were from a small town, and she didn't want my younger sister, who was, you know, still in high school, to have to answer, you know, why aren't you living with your parents, you know? But
she blossomed when she got here. Huh?
Yeah. So my younger sister graduated, and then Mama was ready to come, and she started her life over. And then she didn't have a F-150; she had a Ford Escort. And
That's a change.
Yes. And so we nicknamed it Gray Lightning because it didn't go very fast. And she put everything she had, and she moved here, and we got an apartment, and that was our first happy home.
Dinner Conversations is brought to you by Child Fund, a community development organization that has been envisioning a world where every child is free to live at their fullest potential, no matter where they're from or what challenges they face. And they've been doing this since 1938. Child Fund's mission is to help bring positive and lasting change to communities around the world by removing the barriers that keep children from realizing and reaching their dreams.
Worldwide, over 570 million children are living in extreme poverty. For too many families, access to health care is a luxury, and opportunities for education and employment are extremely limited, forcing parents to often make choices that hinder rather than promote their children's futures. Child Fund's community development programs address these issues so that children around the world don't just have to survive, they can truly thrive.
Today, it is the support from sponsors like you that allows Child Fund to focus on the children and build lasting relationships with the communities like the ones we visited in Guatemala. Child Fund strives to help provide communities with critical necessities, including education, clean drinking water, food and nutrition, basic health care and hygiene, and helping children and parents alike know and understand their basic human rights.
We believe every one of us have been created unique with value, on purpose, and in love by God. We have been created in the image of God. The children we met in Guatemala are image bearers of our Creator. Think about that.
Yeah.
And I believe to love God best, we must learn to love our neighbors even better. Our neighbors like these children in Guatemala. Child Fund is giving us that unique opportunity, all of us, you guys and us, to serve God by loving these children through sponsoring a child today.
Perhaps you already sponsor a child. Would you consider sponsoring another child in Guatemala? Maybe honor one of your children, a new grandchild, a special niece or nephew. These kids are real kids with real dreams, just like the dreams of your kids and grandkids. We know because we met them. Kids that want to be doctors and lawyers and teachers and musicians, just like us.
Your child sponsorship of $36 a month will immediately link you with the child that you can write letters back and forth with, correspond, send pictures of you and your family, even potentially visit one day.
It really does take so little to make a big difference. Visit childfund.org/dinner conversations. A child is waiting. As a small way to say thanks for your child's sponsorship, we will send you an autographed Season 2 DVD and Songs from the Set CD.
Yes, plus a special item made just for you by the communities in Guatemala.
And every sponsor and a guest is invited to a Dinner Conversations Friends and Family Weekend in Nashville.
Hey now, which includes meal times with Mark and me, private little concerts and chit chats with our friends, and a special Sunday morning service that will happen right before you head out of town.
And if you sponsor more than one child, you will have the opportunity to be a guest on an actual episode of Dinner Conversations during the Friends and Family Weekend in Nashville.
Does it get better than that?
No.
Does it, Mark? Does it? Stay tuned for exact details, and don't forget to visit childfund.org/dinner conversations to sponsor your child today. And you blossomed too at that time, if you think about receptionist Julie, but 2.5 years later, you landed a record deal.
Okay, how'd that happen?
Yeah, I mean, that's fascinating.
Okay, so I was still answering phones, you know. And then the head of Mercury, Luke Lewis, came to me and he said, I like the way you answer phones. And he said, will you be my assistant? I need an assistant. But if you're a singer, don't tell me because I don't want a singer answering my phones. I said, okay. You'll get a pay raise. I said, okay. So then I started answering Luke's phones for another 1.5 years. But at night, I had formed a band in college, and at night, I was playing, when I get off of work, playing at anywhere you could get a gig. It's hard to get a gig. So we'd play in coffee houses. We even played at a laundromat, Harvey Washbangers. And
Wow.
Harvey, they had never had anybody there, and they said, if you get too loud and you hear the dryer go off, you need to say, dryer number 3, your clothes are ready. And we played there all the time.
Really?
Yeah.
And people would come, they'd say,
do
okay,
their
they're going to be at the
laundry.
laundromat tonight. Let's go.
Listen, no, it was just people doing their laundry, so we always had a crowd.
Yeah, a built-in crowd.
That's right. So we would play anywhere we could like that. And my guitar player was a receptionist at a publishing company across town. And he'd been my guitar player through college, Belmont. And at his office, producers would come in, and he saw Brent Rowan one day. He said, hey, Brent, I'm playing with this girl at the laundromat. Why don't you come here and sing? And he said, I'm not going to the laundromat. Here's my sing. He said, do you have a CD or something I can hear? And we actually had made a CD in a class at Belmont. So he said, yeah, here you go. And then he told Brent that it was Luke Lewis's assistant. So Brent calls me, and he said, hey, I heard your stuff, and can you put the laundromat gigs on hold a while, and let's record at night, just guitar vocals, because he's a brilliant guitar player. And I said, okay. And so we started recording, and we spent a lot of time. I would go to the Bluebird, listen for songs.
Oh, yeah.
That's actually where I heard Break Down Here. And that was Mama's story, you know. Every part of that, about I didn't want her to break down and turn around and go back. And the lyrics to that song are about Mama. Even there's a line in Break Down Here. It says, I'm out of cigarettes and I'm down to my last drag. And Mama used to smoke Doral lights. And when I heard that song, I could see her riding down 40 to Nashville with her Doral lights. But she ended up quitting. She said, if you get a record deal, I'll quit smoking. And so she ended up quitting smoking. But you know,
You're
sorry.
like, well, you're going to end up quitting smoking here, sister.
So you get
I
a
started
record deal.
recording with Brent.
Okay,
And he said, I'm going to start taking it to every label in town, just guitar vocals. And he did. He went to every label in town, and they all said, she's too bluesy, she's too soulful. They wanted more pop country. And so we kept working, and he said, I believe in you. Somebody will get it. And finally, he said, Julie, I want to take it to Luke, your boss. And I said, no, you'll get me fired. I'm not supposed to be a singer. He said, I know, just get me on his calendar. So I prayed, and I went to my boss, Luke, and I said, hey, Luke, Brent Rowan is working with a new artist in town, and he'd like a meeting with you. And my boss Luke never said, who's the artist? Is it a guy or a girl? And so I knew that was God. Looking back now, that was God working on my behalf.
He just said, okay.
He said, okay, find a spot. And so the day came, and Brent came into my boss's office, and Luke always listened to his music really loud, which I loved. I loved hearing music as I answered his phones. But I could hear me playing through the walls, just me and a guitar.
Yeah.
And he stopped and started the CD a few times. And then Brent left, and he said, call me when you get off. And then my boss left, and he said, I'll see you tomorrow. So I called Brent as soon as I could, and he said he stopped the CD the first time, and he said, "Who's this girl? I want to meet her." And he said, "She's your assistant. She's right outside your office."
Hello.
Okay, and then what happened?
And then Luke said a lot of things that I can't say at this table.
Was he upset? Was he upset?
Well, he was shocked, number one.
Yeah. But he signed you.
Well,
Okay.
he didn't know what to do.
All right.
And he basically said, "She's not supposed to be a singer. I don't know what to do," but in his words.
Okay.
And which so it took him, I knew he liked it, but it took him a few days, and he finally came and stood in front of my desk, and he said, "I heard your stuff and I like it." And he said, "I'm going to play it for the rest of Mercury Records and not tell them it's you." Exactly how it was played for me. And if they say they like it and then they want to sign it, then I'll tell them it's you.
Wow.
And so it took a little while still, and he finally came back to me. He said, "I need a new assistant that definitely does not sing." And that's how my record deal came into my life. And I thought that was all I wanted, was this piece of paper.
You finally are on your way to becoming
Barbara
Mandrell.
Yeah.
And then what happened?
And then life was great. I put out a record, went gold.
Yeah.
It was did the theme song for Good Morning America a few years. I got to do the Tonight Show. I got to be on a bus. I started getting my hair done where Barbara Mandrell gets her hair done.
No way. Are you serious?
So really,
By
you're
the
just
same guy.
No. How did you get that worked
she's
out?
a stalker. Stalkers do it.
That's right.
Yeah, that's great.
No, I figured it out.
You said whoever did her hair got to do mine.
Yes. And she still goes there. We both still go there.
Maybe we should go
Have
there.
you met her?
Yes.
Okay, so
She actually wrote, she read my book, and she wrote about a
Really?
note in the front of my book.
nice. Okay, so take your time. We want y'all just sit back. You're going to love this story. We're not half done.
That's right.
You think, okay, we're meeting a country singer. Just buckle up and hold on. Okay.
That's right. Okay, so I was doing what I always wanted to do, be on the road singing. And, I was playing shows every night. I told my booking agent, I said, "Keep me on the road. I only want to come home to get my roots done."
Oh, I love you. I mean, I can almost remember those days when I would tell them the same thing. I just want to come home to get my roots done.
See?
Actually, that's still in the contract.
So anyway.
So they kept me busy.
Yeah.
And, and I would have to come home. So as soon as you release a record, you have to go ahead and start working on your next one. And my second album was called Men and Mascara. And the line is, "Men and mascara always run." You like that lyric?
That's good. Did you write that?
No,
No? That's clever.
but I've lived it a lot.
You got the best laugh. Gosh, I love your laugh. Okay, so well, that's another episode.
Yeah,
All
so-
your men. We'll have to line them up.
Yeah.
So anyway.
So I only came home to work on that song, record that song or what was on that record, and get my roots done.
Yeah.
And so it was 2005. I'll never forget it. I was playing a show in Asheville, North Carolina, and by this time, people knew my songs. They'd been on the radio. And so at this club, it was a club. And
Your dream was coming true, wasn't
it
it?
was coming true. And my fans were there singing. I could hear them singing back to me. And in the middle of my show, my vision went blurry, and I couldn't see their faces anymore. I love to make eye contact, and I couldn't see them anymore. And then I'm right-handed, so I hold my microphone with my right hand. In the middle of my show, my hand went numb and weak, and I couldn't hold my microphone anymore.
In the middle of the show.
So I switched it to my left hand, and the same thing happened. I couldn't hold my microphone. But thankfully, there was a stand on stage, a microphone stand. I was able to put my microphone in the stand, and I stood there and finished the show. And I always sign after my shows. I love to do meet and greets. And I still couldn't see, but sitting at that desk, I had practiced my autograph all those years.
Yeah.
So I was able to hold a Sharpie and sign my name without seeing it.
And you never told anyone yet?
No.
Oh my.
I didn't tell anybody, except when I got back on the bus, I called Mama.
Yeah.
And Mama's been my other half
Right.
until recent, till I got married, but she'll always be my other half. And I called her and she said, "You're coming home tomorrow to record, and you need to go straight to the doctor." And so I came home and went straight to my regular doctor who sent me to a neurologist. I learned I was claustrophobic because I had an MRI. And they did a spinal tap and some other tests. And he said, I'll call you. I said, okay. And so I was singing Men in Mascara. And when I listen to that song on my record, I think back to that day. And my phone rang, and I knew it was his number, my neurologist's number. And I didn't answer it. I said, I want to keep singing. But when I had a break, I called Mama. I said, hey, Mama, can you call him? I'll call you when I'm done. Mama said, okay.
Okay, so it was in the middle of your concert. I got it.
It was in the middle of recording.
Oh, studio, got it.
So I called Mama. I remember exactly where I was because the studio we were working at was in south of Franklin. And so I was driving 65 north to our townhouse. And I called Mama and I said, what did he say? And she said, why don't you pull over? I want to come pick you up and drive you home. And I said, I'm good, Mama. Just tell me. And she said, well, you don't have, and I know she'd gone on the internet. She said you don't have, and she had a list of things that she thought sounded worse than what they told her. I said, okay, what do I have? She said, you have MS. I'll come pick you up, pull over. And I said, that's okay. I'll be home in a little bit. And so I was driving to our townhouse, and the whole way there I thought about a lady. When I was in South Carolina growing up, I used to sing in nursing homes every Saturday. And there was a young lady in one of the nursing homes, and she was, people always say, Julie, how old are you? And I say, 30 several plus a couple.
30 several. I love it.
So this lady was in her 30s.
Yeah.
And as a little girl, you know, she looks very different from the other residents there. And I would ask, her name was Carol, and I would say, why is Carol in the nursing home? She's so young. And Carol would always ask me to sing Peace in the Valley for her. And I just connected to her. And finally, probably after I aggravated them so much, they said Carol has MS and doesn't have a caretaker. So I had the picture of Carol in my mind the whole drive home, and I knew then why God introduced me to her. And I thought, okay, well, my music helped Carol. Maybe I'm supposed to do something else, like help people now like me, because I'm like Carol. So I got home, and I'm trying not to cry, but I pull up to our townhouse, and we don't have a garage. It's a carport. And you're going to make me cry.
Wow.
I don't know.
I'm listening.
It's a
honey.
common effect.
You're okay. Go ahead, tell us.
Oh, yeah, I'm good. I'm past all this.
Bless your heart.
So
you pulled up.
Okay, pull up. And so my younger sister had moved to Nashville too. She'd gotten her new start too. So we were all living together, and we have 4 dogs. I love dogs.
I do too, honey.
Listen, I just rescued another one.
Oh.
So they were all waiting on the patio for me. And I opened the gate, and Mama and my sister Lowry were crying. And I said, why are y'all crying? And Mama said, why aren't you? And I said, because I wasn't. And I said, I just keep thinking about Carol. And Mama knew who Carol was. And I said, I know why I met her. I said, but I don't know what God wants me to do with my life now, because this is all I've ever wanted to do, was to sing country music. So in my mind, because Carol had MS before there were any disease-modifying therapies, so she was in a wheelchair, and she couldn't use her hands. And I thought that was what my life would look like pretty soon.
Yeah.
So the next day, I went to my neurologist. He gave me tons of literature on MS, and he told me about the available therapies at the time. And I said, okay, thank you. And I took the literature. I never read it. I put it in a drawer, and I got back on the road. And just like when we were little and we never talked about what happened in our home, we hid everything. I said, and Mama, we both said, if we don't say it out loud, maybe it'll go away. And I was afraid to tell the music industry too. I just started, things were going great. And I was afraid they would think I couldn't sing or I couldn't tour. So I kept it to me. The only people that knew were my neurologist, Mama, my sister, and my dogs.
Did you go on the medicine?
No.
No, you didn't.
I didn't read anything.
So did your mama even push you to do that? No?
No.
Really?
We both thought it would go away.
Oh,
Was that like a inborn fear of being broken or seen as broken, or?
Oh yeah. And when I look
Did
back,
you think the Lord would heal you, or were you really thinking, if you ignore it, it won't be there?
no, I thought if I said it out loud and told anybody, it meant I was accepting it and that I had it. And I thought if I didn't accept it, that it would go away.
All right.
And I got back on the bus. I released Men and Mascara. And then in 2009, Lifetime. Y'all watch movies on Lifetime? I bet you do every night.
Well, I've heard they're on there.
Dialed it in.
They wanted to make a movie about this girl, me, that got this record deal from a guy that she worked for. And they knew also how country music saved Mom and me. And they wanted to make it for other women and to help them. And dreamers too. And so they said, will you move to Los Angeles? You'd have to take a year off of music. And I said, okay, I'll move to Los Angeles. So I moved out there and I started working with Tom Rickman, who wrote Coal Miner's Daughter.
Oh, wow.
And started taking acting classes and was there for a whole year. And I loved it. I rescued another dog.
Oh, yeah?
Yes. And at the end of 2009, the heads of Lifetime changed, personnel changed. And they said, your movie's on hold. And I said, what's on hold mean? I know what on hold means in Nashville.
Right.
And they said it means it could be 10 years before your movie's made. And I said, okay. So I moved back to Nashville the end of 2009. And I started writing and recording some songs. And by the beginning of 2010, like around April, I was ready to meet with Luke, my old boss, and play him this music because I wanted a new record out. I wanted to get back on the road. So I went in and he said, before you play me any music, he said, tell me what's going on with the movie. I said, it's on hold. And he said, well, your career here is on hold too. And that honestly was harder than hearing my mom tell me I had MS because all I ever wanted was that record deal and to sing. And just a few days later, May the 1st, 2010, it's the same exact week, the 1,000-year flood came through Nashville, Tennessee. And people lost their lives in that flood. And that morning at 8 a.m., someone started knocking on our townhouse door and told us to get out, that the water was rising. And I was like, what water? Because I was never home. I didn't know I lived near water.
Right.
And they said the Harpeth River's rising.
Uh-oh.
And your cars are floating away. Well, I just paid off my car and I just paid off Mama's car and said, Mama, I just paid off those cars. So she tried to go out and save the car.
Oh.
The car ended up floating away.
Yeah.
And so the water rose really fast in our townhouse and we had to go up to the second level. And we were there for like 6 hours and were rescued by boat eventually. And so we lost everything.
You lost your health, you've lost your home, you've lost your career.
Dream, essentially. Yeah.
Your dream,
Like back-to-back blows.
All of the, yeah.
What did that do? Like, what was the aftermath of that? I mean, for you just personally, your psyche, your emotions, that's a lot.
I think you just have to keep moving, you know? And so when we were able to go back to our townhouse and start pulling, nobody had flood insurance because it never floods here.
Yeah, right, yeah.
So we had to pull up our carpet. And when I was trying to pull up my carpet, I couldn't use my hands again. And this had been 5 years since my initial diagnosis. And so Mama saw that because she was there too. And she said, you need to go back to your neurologist. It didn't go away. I know now why I had to live through that and lose everything because I thought that was what was important. And what was really important was I was saved by that boat because God had another purpose for me. And it was to sing, but it was also to help people like Carol. And when I was saved and I went back to my neurologist, I said, I was saved, I was rescued by boat. I said, but my symptoms are back. And I want to save me from me.
Oh, wow.
And I said, oh, and by the way, I didn't read anything you gave me. It's floating in the Harpeth.
Hand it back.
I might need another copy. You can help change the life of a child today by partnering with Andrew and me and supporting a boy or girl in Guatemala through Child Fund today.
Your sponsorship will not only improve the future of one child's life, your child's sponsorship will promote communities in Guatemala. The communities that Mark and I just visited, where we saw parents who are learning to value and to protect and to advance the worth and rights of their teens and children, who through your child's sponsorship are literally changing the culture of each child's community from the inside out.
Perhaps you already sponsor a child. Would you consider sponsoring another child in Guatemala? Maybe in honor of one of your children, a new grandchild, a special niece or nephew. It takes so little to make such a profound difference in the life of a child.
Your sponsored child is a real kid with real dreams, just like the dreams of your children and grandchildren. We know because we met them. Kids that want to be doctors and lawyers and teachers, even musicians, kind of like us. Your sponsorship gives these children their chance to achieve their very unique dreams.
You may not be able to change the whole world, but you can change the world for one child. Visit childfund.org/dinner conversations to sponsor a child in Guatemala today. To learn more about Dinner Conversations, visit dinner-conversations.com.
And while you're there, check out some of our friendly merch. We've got show mugs and season 1 and 2 DVDs. And we got these little note cards so Mark can write me a note that says, "You're the best co-host
Oh,
ever."
yes. Well, you know, you get that after every episode. And what about this mug with our faces on it?
What says good morning better?
It's like we're on both sides, so now lefty or a righty, you get to see us every morning.
You know, I think it's time we get back to those guests.
Yeah, probably.
What that says to me, and I think we've all been at some place in our life, or will be again, or will be for the first time, of our whole identity, our whole self being wrapped up in what we do more than who we are. And I think that speaks to a lot of people, because when you get to the end of that, okay, if what I do equals who I am, and then what I do goes away, even if temporarily, you know, they say you don't have a career here anymore. Oh, wait, that career also bought us a happy home. That's gone. All these things go away, my health, my physicality. How did you find, like, what happened to your identity at that point in time when it's all wrapped up in this and all of it's gone?
It was really tough because even as a little girl singing in South Carolina, people said, "Oh, that's Julie, she's the singer." So that was hard. I had to really find who I am here, you know, and I really had to dig deep and see if there was another purpose in my life. And I asked God, I said, "God, what do you want me to do now? You've got to show me, because all you've ever shown me was music." And
Well, it kind of sounds to me like all you ever showed him was music.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to be Barbara Mandrell.
That's
and
true.
I hope you go along with it.
And he did. He was listening.
He did. He let you have your dream, and then it's gone.
It's gone, but I really was, that day in my neurologist's office, when I said I'm ready to take care of me because I think I was safe for a reason, that was a big step for me, because everything was gone, but I still had my life, you know,
And that was, what year was that?
2010.
So it's been 8 years.
So in that 8 years, like, I've seen advocacy for MS. Like, you really have shifted. Music has started coming to play, but even with this book and telling your story, that you've started to allow your story, it seems like, to be the impetus for your life, for your stage, for your platform, for what you have to share, rather than just a song.
Right.
For you.
Because I wasn't scared anymore to tell the world I had MS. And I just wasn't scared to admit to myself I had it. And then I started to learn more about MS. I wanted to. I got involved. I learned about the National MS Society, and I would sign up for a walk. And I would learn what they did. And then somebody asked me one day if I would be interested in speaking at a benefit for the National MS Society. And from that point, I started really doing that more than singing.
Wow.
And when I stand in front of a room of other people living with MS, and especially newly diagnosed people who are in the same place that I was, who were afraid and didn't know that they'd be able to continue their dreams, I'm more fulfilled than I ever was dropping off a song at a radio station, hoping they'd play it.
Yeah.
And so it took me all of that to figure out that I could do other things, and that God really introduced me to Carol for a reason and had this purpose for me.
I feel like this whole story, this whole journey of yours leads into that title of this finding beauty in brokenness. It seems like at one point, growing up with this broken family or father, and then maybe associating that MS or the illness with brokenness, don't want to be broken, hide it, shut it away, and finally discovering that actually they're beautiful things, right? You know?
Totally.
That-
And
You wouldn't wish it, but would you have missed it? I mean, I'm wondering. I mean, some things I love. It's kind of, you ask me on what day you ask me, would I change it? You know, some things. How about you?
I think if you ask me, I know if you asked me any day, I wouldn't change it.
Really?
At all, because as I said just a minute ago, if I know that I'm helping one person, to save them from themselves.
Lately I've been wondering if I should even be. Seems everything is showing me that I don't belong, but still I've got the story and this broken heart of gold, memories and melodies, and I've got this song, and the song goes with me when the lights go down. It's my true companion at the edge of this town. You can leave me stranded, strike a bargain for my soul, but the song goes with me when I go. Heard it as a baby, rocking me fast asleep, gentle as a morning rain, woke me from my young girl's dreams. It took me to the honky-tonks to bring my stumbling daddy home. He sang haggard from the backseat drunk, and I sang along, and the song goes with me when the lights go down. It's my true companion at the edge of this town. You can leave me stranded, strike a bargain for my soul, but the song goes with me when I go. I know where I'm headed. When I go, there'll be a whole lot of singing in heaven. You can leave me stranded, strike a bargain for my soul, but the song goes with me. Yeah, the song goes with me. Yeah, the song goes with me when I go.
Oh, I I love a country song. And Julie Roberts, thank you for being with us.
You liked Julie. I could tell
Oh,
she's one of
she's
your
a
favorites.
beautiful, sweet girl.
She is, absolutely. You can find her music in our Amazon affiliate link in the episode description below.
And if you'd like to binge watch Dinner Conversations, you can do that right now on Amazon Prime. Dinner Conversations is brought to you by Child Fund, a community development organization that has been envisioning a world where every child is free to live at their fullest potential, no matter where they're from or what challenges they face since 1938.
Partner with us and our good friends at Child Fund to change the world and the life of a child by considering sponsoring a child today.
It really does take so little to make a difference.
Visit childfund.org/dinner conversations.
A child is waiting.